Evening. Welcome to the Belgrade Planning Board meeting of April the 6th. I'm Rich Baker. I'm acting chairman until first thing on our agenda is to elect the chairman with Peter Rushton gone. I guess with that, I might ask if there's anybody who would like to volunteer to be the chairman, if we so elect him. If not, we're going to have to take in a nomination for the chairperson. And with that offer, I don't hear anybody jumping.
Can we operate without one?
So anyway,
So
we have
Well,
a
here's
discussion.
nobody is in charge of it, is one of becoming chair? What I heard?
Nobody's wanting it, right?
Well, I nominate Sarah.
We have a second.
Second. Rich doesn't want to.
You have a discussion of that.
Well, alternate can't.
Sarah, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's not alternate, when he moves up to full time.
Well, the only discussion I want to make sure of is that I believe in seniority. So I don't know, I guess nobody's interested on right here. And I will say maybe to seniority will be you and then George and then Craig. So you guys are not interested. So
Well-
then if you guys give me the honor of doing that, I'll be happy to help. And assume that.
I'm not interested. I would do it if you or nobody else was willing to. And I would only do it until if that new ordinance passes, that reestablishes the planning board, we would go to a process where we would elect a chair every year, like the select board does.
Yes, yeah.
And so the term of the office is until next January, basically. But I think you would do a good job. That's why I nominated you.
I feel honored you think so, and as I said, I believe in seniority. If you guys would pass it on to me, I'll be happy to help.
Well, thank you. And I do know that you're, at least I believe you're still on the school board.
I am.
And that there are meetings you may miss on the planning board as a result of conflicts.
But
But I'm not using that as a negative. I'm using it as a positive for you that if you miss meetings because of that, we understand that's why you're not here.
usually the meetings of the school board are on Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
The only meeting that happen on Thursdays once a year, when we all have to go to the PAC to vote for the budget. So I'm not sure that Thursday this year conflicts with the meeting here, but other than that, I missed in a year and a half, or maybe I missed this board 3 times,
Mhm, mhm.
and it had been because I've been out of
We
meetings.
all miss meetings because of conflicts. And,
Okay.
Peter hasn't missed a single meeting since I'm here, I think. Peter Rushton.
Yeah.
So-
The other thing too, I would just mention about that ordinance that we're going to talk about later in the agenda is that it provides for electing a vice chair.
Hmm.
So there would be an automatic backup. We wouldn't, as sometimes we've done in the past, fumble around of, do you want to do it? No, you want to do it,
Okay, good. Well, is there any other discussion or thoughts on this before we vote?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm brand new, so you say our meetings ran a couple times. I've watched online a few times.
By the way, have you been chewing on your name tag?
No, you shouldn't give it to me like that.
Somebody ran off with mine.
Well, in that case, we'll vote and we'll do a roll call vote because it's being held on.
Hold on, we just got kicked offline, so let's time out for a second.
Okay.
We're back.
All right. So we'll vote. Nick,
I vote.
this is all a positive vote for Sarah as chairman of the planning board,
Yes.
and Nick is a yes. Sarah, you voted?
Yes,
Yes. I'll vote, oh, George,
Yes,
great,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes.
thank you.
So this is your chair.
Or you can stay there.
Yeah, you gotta be close to the gavel.
All right.
There you are.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Town of Belgrade Planning Board of April 6th, 2023, and we're going to proceed with the agenda. The next order of business is new business. And how was that? You want to roll call to open the meeting? All right, so.
and so Caitlin knows who's here.
Oh, okay, there we go. So I forgot about that, Caitlin, I'm sorry. Roll call, we have, Mr. Baker, Richard Baker, we have
Nick
Nick
Sakara.
Sakaro, Sarah Langette, George Seal, Craig Alexander, and Hans
Rasmussen.
Rasmussen. I always have a hard time with the last name, I'm so sorry.
Might be good, Nick, if you spelled your last name for Caitlin's our secretary and
It's
she's.
Z as in zebra, ACCARO.
Thank you.
2 C's, 1 R.
And then also in the audience, people in the audience can introduce themselves, that would be great.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ally Malone, and I have a application in this evening for a bunkhouse.
All right,
Douglas Frame with Golden Pond LLC.
all right,
John Hummel, J&J Holdings.
all right. Thank you so very much.
And online, we have Bill Goose, Karen Hopkins Carr, and Kristen Hopkins Keys, sorry.
All right, so with that fulfilled, we can proceed with the agenda. And the first order of business with new business is the application from Golden Pond LCC for Ally Malone. And the applicant is Golden Pond and the owner is Ally Malone. This is a application for 28 Sebago Drive, map 44, lot number 3. The name of the pond that is nearby is Great Pond. And currently, the use of the property is residential, and they're proposing to construct or rebuild a bunkhouse on an existing platform. The present number of bedrooms is 3 of them. The application, as I read, is for a bunkhouse. The lot area is 136,800 square feet. That's the total area. And the lot area within the shores land zone is 45,000. The square footage of vegetated surface with shoreline zone, including all structures, driveways, parking lot, walkways, and patios, is 6,093 square feet. And that's the same area that will be total for clear opening of wood vegetation. The total number of structures in that lot is 4. The present structure square footage is 3,655 square feet. And the proposed structure will be the same, 3,655 square feet. And with that, we open the floor for Discussion? About this application?
Maybe, Hans could tell us what he knows about this from either a site inspection or, for example, Hans, is this, am I correct, is a non-conforming structure on a conforming lot?
No, it's a non-conforming lot, it's only got 180 square, linear feet of water frontage.
Okay,
It is a conforming structure in that the pad platform is already there. So it's been in existence for a while. Previously was a bunkhouse, which was taken down at some point, but the pad has always been maintained. So it's just a matter of erecting the bunkhouse again. It's a real bunkhouse, no plumbing, no electricity.
The bunkhouse itself as it stands today or stood, I don't know if it's still there or still up, but that is non-conforming with water setback, is correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you plan to build it on the same foundation?
Same footprint.
What type of foundation is on there?
It's a wood, floor system, wood structure, pad, concrete pads.
Yeah, okay, concrete pad there, okay.
Again, I should be correct. It is not conformed, but it is legally existing.
you're right, two different things. And that's in that's a limited residential zone, right?
It is.
Any other questions about the application?
I don't think I have any, if it weren't a concrete pad or whatever, I'd be asking whether it could be moved back any further, but I'm not gonna suggest jacking anything out, the concrete pad.
It is a concrete pad?
Post and concrete pad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
That's, and a few of these are just clarifications. In question 6, I noticed that, on the first page of the application, were some bedrooms to be added. That wasn't filled in, just said bunkhouse, no bath. So I don't know if it's the 3 bedrooms that's, listed include the bunkhouse or.
Yeah, I mean, there's a loft.
Yeah, there's two bedrooms with a sleeping loft in the main structure, and then, there was a couple of bedrooms in the garage barn, that we are repairing. There was a very significant rodent infestation in the barn. So we're working away on that, but the bunkhouse itself was there, and it would just be, essentially, we can't host anyone.
So the focus of this question is how many bedrooms are being served by the wastewater septic system? And I'm just wondering if 3 is indeed the right number.
I believe the system was designed for 5 bedrooms.
Right.
It says 3 on, believe, I looked at it earlier.
Yeah,
It
there's,
says septic design available, yes, designed for 3 bedroom.
so where it asks bedrooms to be added under this application, should that be 0?
I would say it would be.
Yeah,
That's why- that's
the
why-
loft is just 5.
That would be a
So I
useful
call it
clarification that maybe
bedroom.
we can get to.
It's
The,
not permanent living in that one.
No.
The, so the plans that were submitted, site plan. See here. Have different distances from the lake, not that it probably matters in the bigger scheme of things, but I'm just wondering which is correct. One shows it as, being 32 feet 3 inches from, the lake. The other has it as 36.
32.3 is the correct one.
Okay, we'll need that corrected as well. Because one site, like I said, at least in our packet, the first one has 36.
Yeah.
The second has a 32.3, so we'll need that fixed as well. Actually, that's all I have for questions. Really clarifications.
The septic system going to be plugged into the bunkhouse?
No,
Or is it
no,
just
that-
strictly bed?
No, bad. No.
Actually, I do have one more question. So a little bit of history. How did this come to be that it's just a foundation and no building on top of it? Was there a building at one point in time torn down?
Yeah.
When was that torn down?
That I don't know. We were lucky enough to acquire the property last year from a gentleman who was quite elderly and wasn't able to really communicate all the history of the property
Yeah.
to us, unfortunately. There was a picture that they gave us of the bunkhouse, and then the platform is there. So that was, we didn't get unfortunately, I couldn't tell you.
That platform, how is the platform maintained? You said it's been maintained, but there's no structure there. It's PT.
Yeah. Whenever they took that down, they said that they would put tenants on it.
Mm.
So the height of the structure is not gonna be more than 13 feet,
I'm sorry.
total height of the structure?
Yeah, that sounds about correct. That cross section. Yeah. 16 feet wide, parallel with the shorefront, 10 feet.
So I have a question for the board. And I would refer everybody to page 14, the section on reconstruction and replacement of the shoreline zoning ordinance. This presumes that or requires that a permit be obtained within 18 months of the date of the demolition of the building. To quote it, it says, so it's basically says any non-conforming structure which is located less than the required setback from the water body, regardless of cause, by more than 50% of market value, may be reconstructed or replaced, provided that a permit is obtained within 18 months of the date of said damage, destruction, or removal. And then it goes on to say, provided that such reconstruction or replacement is in compliance with the water body, tributary stream, wetland setbacks. So that's not going to be the case here, but but you know, that happened under a prior owner, and not that the ordinance provides for that, but I'm not really sure how this fits.
Yeah, it does fit. I mean, that's the language. But the thing that question I have was that I was coming across with the same questions in my mind, and the thought came to me that, you know, and I'm bringing this out to the board too for discussion. The pad is there. There's nothing, or put it this way, I don't know of anything specifically in the ordinance that would prevent a structure being built on top of the structure that's already there.
So that would be not unsimilar to somebody putting a second floor on a non-conforming camp. As
Yeah,
long as they met the height requirements, they're not adding to the footprint.
they're not adding there is no square footage change to the existing structure. At the same time, if we were to take that approach strictly, then anybody who had a cement pad can build a building, no
Right.
matter where it is, and
Right.
we've never gone there before.
Right.
Just
So,
to clarify what's there is still wooden structure there. It's not all the walls and the roof, but it's not just what's in the ground.
Yeah.
I think that they were trying to keep.
Looks like a pad platform. on-
Yeah.
On a cement pad.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah, so
So-
it's not just like any old.
It's more of a replacement or upgrade.
Do you have photos?
Yeah, yeah, and I,
Actually should have been submitted as part of the application.
I don't think this is any different than prior applications where decks are enclosed, what have you, with the square footage. I know there's been past practice in that regard.
Yeah,
I do. If I get told it.
And Craig, you may know the answer to this better than I do, but someone were designing or building a concrete pad, starting from scratch or whatever. Is that anywhere near, or would that, the cost of that concrete pad for what they're building be,
Yeah, 50%.
yeah,
Probably back in the day,
that way?
back when they had the original building on there. This is an upgrade, but. So, yeah, I mean, you have the earthwork and the. So,
I mean, platform's not a bad description of it.
yeah. So is concrete pad underneath there, or is that round concrete pads?
Round concrete pads.
Well, that's
Question I was-
different.
Question I was asking Craig, and you may have heard it or may not, as to whether or not that concrete pad could in fact be cost of that more than 50%.
Yeah, but with the round concrete pads, not just regular concrete
Yeah.
pads.
That's just.
Rich, weren't you under the impression this was poured concrete rather than this round concrete pad you buy at Gagny?
That's what I was thinking.
So doesn't that change the whole issue with regard to whether or not it may need to be moved back to the greatest practical extent?
Yeah, I would say it's different, like I said, jackhammering out a concrete pad. Well, these are just blocks, is what you're.
I mean, they're,
From a practical standpoint on that property, it takes a severe uphill slope after that. We've been on Sebago in that area. That's on kind of a plateau at the bottom.
It is the flattest, and I will say we also have beautiful but extremely large glacial boulders all over the
Yeah.
whole, the whole site as you come down. It's, the topography is beautiful, but it's a little tricky.
yeah, you have photos of that? Because I see typically how we handle these cases is we do a site visit to determine exactly what you're describing, if how practical it is to require to move it back.
I was there last fall, prior to snowfall, and it is very rough. It's low bush blueberries, small sapling, what pines and hemlocks.
And what about the boulders and stuff?
It's rough. It's very rocky.
It's really our goal too. We bought this because it is a camp and it's very rustic and wooded ferns and trees, and we'd like to leave that as uninterrupted as we can. It's very peaceful. So if we didn't have to.
Just so you understand, we're not making up the rules as we go here. We're trying to apply the ordinance as it's written to your particular circumstances and request.
Thank you.
An overall goal of this ordinance is for non-conforming structures like this is to make them as conforming as possible
Sure.
where practical, and that's the judgment we have to make.
Sure, 100%. And, we really want to play by the rules here, and we want to try to leave this site as sort of
Yeah.
uninterrupted.
I mean, certainly there've been other cases that we've had where, they're boulders the size of Volkswagens that clearly rule out moving a structure.
Yeah.
Likewise with really big trees, but I can't tell from those photos whether that's the case or not.
Yeah, they're, like I said, I mean, the slope is quite severe, and then between the amount of trees on the lot, the brush burns, and then the boulders, it would be not impossible, I'm sure, but tricky, and I think more destructive visually into the environment to try to remove it, where right now it is already clear there. So it would mean, I think, trying to shift some of that and to me, this would be less impactful, but again, certainly we want to play by the rules here, and it is our goal to leave this feeling as rustic as we can.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I mean, this is not a black and white situation, so the question really is, do we need to do a site visit is, I think, the question before us. I don't know how the others feel about that, but.
Is there no cover still there?
There's some.
I'm sensing that you guys will feel more comfortable with the site visit.
I wouldn't be opposed to one. One of those,
Well,
I can see it's got slope, but I just don't know.
And good one.
Sorry,
If I
sorry.
may, just because I have been there, it is a difficult track down there, even with the path they've got.
Yeah, to get that house level, it would have to be elevated substantially on one.
Exactly,
on one
to
side.
move this, you are gonna cause a lot more damage. I mean, than just leaving it where it is. And it's not possible, you know, for an excavator to get down there to probably move the path. I mean, it's,
I don't think you want to do that, honestly.
no, absolutely, it's. To try to move it back at all is gonna be counterintuitive.
So, Hans, you were at the site visit that we did down the road from here and saw the things we kind of munched over. And it sounds like your judgment is this is, can't be moved back to any greater practical extent.
If you moved it a foot, and you're gonna have to bring in, to level again. Right now it's level. You don't have to disturb any soil, period.
Well, I think the key thing is. Like, we have to define what being demoed means, you know what I mean, like, and the wording says after it's demoed, right? But if you don't take out the whole thing, is it demoed? You know what I mean? I mean, at what point is it demoed if there's still structure there? If there's still, the foundation is.
So the ordinance bases it on 50% of market value.
Yeah. More than 50%.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, you've included the real estate in that. So.
I'm sorry.
In the past, the market value has included the real estate. I mean, I don't see how we can assess 50% of market value of a tent platform.
With the whole house included, the whole piece of real estate then. Right.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about that than how to get around or at least not ignore the 18 months since the demolition. It's hard to even consider that if we don't even know when it happened.
If it had been attached to our house in a porch, would we be allowed to enclose it?
Yeah, but that's different, because it wasn't demolished.
Well, yeah, if it was taken down and the platform was still there, it would still be able to. But it would still be over the 50%.
Right. And the ones we have approved in this situation have all been, demolished recently or are about to be demolished. And then the new the new structure constructed.
I'm a little bit confused, where I've heard people talk about tent platform. But it wasn't a tent platform, is it, when you're mentioning tent platform, is that what it looks like now, or was in fact there an actual structure?
There was the structure that we have the photo of, and I think that their thought was that because they left the floor, that they were not giving up what was there, and they continued to use it for exactly what we want to use it for, which is to be able to have people sleep there.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a full-time.
Yeah, I think if it weren't for this 18-month period, it'd be a too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Fact that it's not on poured concrete. That's what it looked like previously?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't see this any different than a deck that people have had on their house for 15, 20 years that it's kind of a,
Make it a screen.
yeah, I mean, those are, I don't see the difference in that.
I'm sorry, I just can't agree with you on that, but,
What is the difference?
under the ordinance, because this is a part of the ordinance that has nothing to do with, putting an addition on a non-conforming structure. This is all about retaining a non-conforming structure in a non-conforming location and rebuilding it. Can we get back to the foundation again? Because I mean, to me, it seems like, let's just ignore for a moment what Hans told us, but if we may encounter this again, if it was not for the fact that of the steep embankment behind it, where, you know, it would possibly have been feasible to move it or practical to move it. I mean, I don't see these concrete round pads the same as a poured concrete foundation. You know, it's something that can be moved. They were moved in place, that can be moved out of place. I mean, you know, it's sort of an academic point because Hans has told us that it's probably not practical to move that back further. But I'm just wondering if others, you know, see it the same way if we encounter this again.
Yeah.
Well, with the pictures I see here, I just said not have them move it back, because it's gonna cause more disruption than
So it's practical to keep it in place where
in
it is.
place, because it's so rocky, and they've already got a great base of plant growth and everything else in between the rocks. It's gonna take a long time to get that back. You start moving things around and digging, they're gonna have to, they're not gonna be able to do that by hand.
Yeah,
So in that aspect. And I don't really see where. Where if you have a deck in place, where if there's just a structure with a roof in place, where it's that much different than just the structure that's already there. As far as.
well, and my point is academic in the sense that Hans has already told us on the record that, you know, he thinks it's impractical to move back because of the steepness of the slope. But what I saw in the photos, those rocks didn't faze me in the slightest. I mean, when we haven't required people to move back, it's because their car, you know, they would have had to bring in blasting. Move.
Yeah, but those are just the surface rocks. You can tell the way those rocks are formed and the way it looks at those rocks, that there's rocks.
Right, yeah, I know, but if that was flat ground, it's very doable. It's not flat ground though. That's the key for me.
It looks like, you know, the main structure of the house, for that to be flat, it looks like it's a story up on the lakeside, you know?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
of how
we
steep
could
it
see
is, so
that
I
from
think
one
that
of
the structure would look a lot more looming if it was back, because it would have so much for below it. So just outside of not wanting to disrupt it, but not to be that way.
What kind of vegetation is between the pad or the structure now to the water? Is it vegetated other than grass?
There's no grass anywhere. It's all boulders and ferns and little.
Trees, right? I thought I saw a bunch of trees too.
No, there's a lot of trees, yeah.
Between there and the water?
And do you have any plans of doing any clearing between that and water?
The trees that have been, and we talked about this during the visit, the site was very neglected for a long time. The previous owners were from out of state, and there's widowmakers hanging everywhere. So, yes, but we're trying not to clear anything that's, just limbing up the trees for all the dead stuff, and then a couple that were dangerous and too close to the house. But, we had an arborist come in and.
All right, so is that on the drawings?
No.
Because we might need to require some replacements, right?
Well, I guess,
They didn't uproot any trees, she's talking about just living off the dead ones.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
not
there
what I
were
just heard.
some little tiny ones that were sickly that were crowding. I mean, we've got some beautiful oak trees and the big pine trees. We've left all that and we want to leave all that. So that's part of the other reason I don't want to move it back too much. 'cause
Okay,
we
so
have-
just some dead material basically. is what-
Yeah. We're trying to care for it. We want it to be, we want it to thrive. We have no plans to plant grass or do anything like that. We want to keep it natural. We don't want to put, we want to keep the rocks as pathways and all that.
just one of my thoughts, if Hans doesn't believe it's prudent or feasible to move it back, I guess I'm somewhat willing to accept that, there is a structure there, so to speak, and we saw the pictures. I guess I wouldn't get too opposed to the idea of leaving it where it is.
Yeah, well, and I also would defer to Hans' judgment on that because of the steepness. Pretty much exclusively because of the steepness. And as long as there isn't going to be a lot of, any live vegetation cleared between it and the lake and that kind of thing, I'm pretty much okay with this. It's just a matter of filling in some of the information because the application at the moment is incomplete.
Mhm.
And we did discuss that during the site visit was the pathway to the bunkhouse. They're using existing pathways. They are not bringing any soil, they're not disturbing any soil other than what it's gonna be a worn, pathway. It's, as she said, it was owned by an elderly individual who rarely spent time there. And you have, what, 2 or 3 boys?
A boy and 2 little girls.
Okay.
So you'll wear that down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Saying.
Yeah, they're climbing all over everything, getting good.
It's gonna be beat down, but, as Craig mentioned, you're not disturbing anything
Yeah,
by leaving it where it is and just putting it back to what it was.
okay.
Okay, so it sounds like we have an agreement to move forward with it.
I noticed the
That's the corrected. Oh, okay.
septic system report
For you, the corrected.
had a few recommendations. I assume or
That's in the list.
you're expecting to do that?
Risers on and they're gonna be taking care of all that.
Yeah, he said the septic inspector said everything seemed to be working great, but it's just better to access, and I want that to be.
Yeah.
We want to take good care of it from here on out, everything
Yeah,
clear.
nobody wants their septic system to fail.
No, nobody wants that.
I think the only other thing we need is for you, if you haven't already done it, and I wasn't paying attention, is to put a 0 by the bunkhouse thing there and initial and date that, and you already fixed the, and I think we need them to send those photos, because that's key to our justification for approving this.
Yeah.
So it will be a condition of approval.
The bunkhouse photo and the landscape photo.
Yeah, yeah.
I can submit those.
So that it shows the steepness of the slope, because we need something in the file that shows why we are approving this.
I'll print those off in good times tomorrow.
All right, that'd be great.
Right,
Thank you.
thank you. So, we are going to be moving on with finding of facts for this application. And this is a little bit lengthy, but it's detailed and something that we do for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Just
no,
bear with
this
us, all right?
This is no problem.
Realtor report.
I live in Portland. This is great. This is very efficient.
All right. Glad to hear that.
Must not be anything on TV tonight, huh?
See you guys in 2 years in Portland.
Red
So,
Sox aren't playing.
oh my God, Hans, you done a great job here. We already have in the form, we have the name of the applicant, Ali Malone. The applicant address is 28 Sebago Drive, Mach 44 and Lot 3. And the finding of facts is a shoreline permit for rebuild bunkhouse on existing platform. The application was presented to the planning board today, April 6th, and we will go to the conclusion laws from there. Based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it, and above finding of facts, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted for the use under section 14, table 1 in the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusions based on the applicable provisions in section 16D of the ordinance. So, so it make the project permitted, is permitted. Number one question. Will maintain safety and healthful conditions. By vote, the board found that this standard is or was met based on the application as it is,
Public record.
public record.
Application submissions. Should have a stamp.
So we're voting on that right now. We will vote on that first statement. So I will request the vote of the board, and we're gonna go through a roll call. So this standard is found to be met. So, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
yes, for Sarah, George,
Yes,
Yes.
Greg, thank you. So 5,
Nick,
In
just for your
favor?
background, it's a legal requirement, well, it's a requirement of the ordinance, and it's a basic legal requirement that we have to do findings of fact and law, and that's what this form is about. I don't, probably that's not in the packet that you got from Mary, but maybe Hans, you could provide him with a copy so he can take a look at it. The town attorney drafted that for us, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
so thank you for bearing with us too, because I'm new to do this. And it's kind of cool watching Peter doing it, but when it's time for you to do it, it's a little bit different.
That's why George didn't want to be chairman.
I'm not as dumb as I look.
Give you one for the commercial development.
So, second, item is, this application will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters. By vote of the board, we found that, this standard is met. So we go for the roll call. Mr. Baker.
Yes.
Yes.
Nick, your last name again, please.
Carl.
Sakar, Mr. Sakar, yes. Mrs. Seal,
Yes, with the stormwater runoff condition.
and Mr. Alexander,
Yes.
thank you, and yes for me too. So this standards pass 0 in favor, no one opposed. 5 in favor, no one opposed, yes. So with condition of water storm runoff. All right. This application will adequate provide for the disposal of all wastewater. By the vote of the board, this standard is found to be met. Mr. Bacon? Yes.
Yes.
Nick? Mr. Seal?
Yes,
Mr. Alexander? Yes?
Yes.
And Sarah Longa says yes, so it's 5 in favor, no one opposed. These applications will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat. By vote of the board, this standard is found to be met. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Steele,
Yes,
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
So I also vote yes, so it's five in favor, none involved, none opposed. Will severe shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters by vote of the board. This standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
yes,
Craig,
Yes.
and Sarah, I vote yes too, so 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will protect archaeological and historical resources as assigned in the comprehensive plan by vote of the board. This standard is found to be met. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
yes,
Greg,
Yes.
and Sarah also vote yes, so 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will avoid problems associated with flood plain development and use. By vote of the board, this standard is found to be met. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
yes,
Craig,
Yes.
and Sarah also vote in favor, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed. So now we're gonna go through a set of questions that what we're gonna do is, we're gonna go through all of them. Approve them, so to speak, or say that if they're right or not, and we're gonna take vote at the very end. And this is a little bit lengthy, so hang with us. So it is in conformance with the provisions of section 15 land use standards. And the number one standard is the minimum lot standards are those met,
NA,
NA. Principal and accessory structures, NA.
what was that?
Principal and
Oh, no,
accessory,
that's relevant,
that's relevant, okay, so, all right, but that's met. So, campgrounds. NA. Individual private campsites. NA. Commercial and industrial usages. NA. Parking areas. NA. Road and driveways.
NA, they're not posting that.
Signs. NA. Stormwater runoff. That's applicable. Septic waste disposal systems.
That's, yeah.
Essential services. Okay. Mineral exploration and extraction. Okay. You got a gold mine over there? Agriculture. Okay. Timber harvesting and land management roads. NA. Clearing and removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting. We'll say NA to that one. They were only removal
Yeah,
of
it's
dead
NA because they're
stuff.
not posting
Yeah.
anything after the Y.
Hazard trees, stormwater damage trees, and dead tree removal.
Got that.
Okay. Exceptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements.
NA thing.
Exceptions to clearing and vegetation.
Oh, no,
removal.
yeah, that's NA.
NA.
They're,
Revegetation requirements.
No.
no, NA.
Okay. 6 more to go. Erosion and sedimentation control. Shoreline stabilization,
That's an A.
soils,
That's an A. They're not building a new septic systems.
water quality,
Yes.
historical and archaeological sites,
That platform maybe, but
resource protection. Okay. So wrapping up that requirement, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are applicable here. So principal and accessory structures, stormwater runoff, septic waste disposal systems, hazard trees, storm damaged trees and dead removal trees, and erosion and sedimentation control, as well as water quality. By vote of the board, this standard was met according to the evidence in record and what the item that I just read. All right, so by vote of the board, we said that this is going to be met. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
and I vote yes too. So 5 in favor, none opposed. All right. So, conditions of approval needed to meet required Belgrade SLS ordinance findings in section 16D. So, we have additional conditions of approval. We have 2 of them specifically. One is the manage of stormwater runoff from the new and expanded structure, or actually just new structure, in accordance with section 15 of the Belgrade's shoreline zoning ordinance and main DEP best management water practices. All right, so I guess the condition of approval, the whole application to give you the permit is that you guys are going to follow with those requirements and those practices. All right. And the other condition is that the planning board approval of this project is limited to the described due to the description in the application and depict and what was depicted in the accompanying site plan and other application submission. Any changes to or derivations from the application, site plan, and other application submissions as approved by the planning board must be received prior approval by the board, including but not limited to changes to the proposed location, the footprint, the height of the structure, changes in the number of bedrooms, roads and driveways, parking, wells, surface wastewater disposal systems, the extent and location of the vegetated areas, tree cutting and natural vegetation clearing, methods of soil erosion control and stormwater runoff control. So basically what we're saying here is that what you approve for, that you submit it, is exactly what you're going to do. And we all are signing in blood this.
Yeah, that's what.
All right. So that said, I'm gonna have to take the final approval for the entire application from the board.
Sir, can I
Sure.
ask a question of the board?
Sure.
Or I was not gonna, I thought about offering a condition, the usual condition we place on bunkhouses of no cooking facilities. But this application makes it pretty clear that there's not gonna be any bath. And so it seems like it's not necessary because without a bath, it can't be a dwelling unit.
Yeah.
A separate dwelling
I was
unit.
gonna say,
And just for
the
your
other
benefit,
thing-
Nick, the issue that comes up is if somebody, for builds a bunkhouse and then puts cooking and bathroom facilities, they've created a second principal dwelling unit. And then the lot size needs to be twice as big, and usually it isn't. So this is something that's, some enforcement cases involved around, and some of them have been, one of them in particular, has been pretty nasty. So this is just something we try to guard against, but I don't think it's needed in this particular case myself. I just thought I'd raise that though.
I was gonna say, if you wanted to be extra sure, you could say this structure shall not become a dwelling unit. Cover it, but,
Yeah.
you're right, it's pretty obvious in the application that it's not gonna.
Yeah,
be.
well, let me ask you, Hans, because typically we put these in so that the town can, more readily enforce the permit. And in the event that somebody down the line decides to turn it into a second dwelling unit, are you comfortable if we don't do that in this particular case?
It's a bunkhouse, and a bunkhouse can't have plumbing, so.
Well, bunkhouse can have plumbing, but it states that it's not gonna have plumbing,
Right,
so,
and so it would never be a
I'm
resident.
fine with the way it is, because you can't add a condition on when they're already explaining that they've already met that
Right,
requirement.
that's my feeling too.
You
And-
can't add that extra condition on. Because,
And in other cases, it hadn't been that clear in the application.
yeah.
Okay,
All right, we're good?
Yeah.
Good. So, the decision, based on the above finding of facts and conclusion of law on April 6, 2023, the town of Belgrade Planning Board approved by a vote of, we're gonna go vote of this. The whole application, we're gonna summarize it now and approve it. So we put a motion out that to give, to grant a permit to this, application. So by vote of the board, we are going to approve that. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
yes,
Craig, Sarah also approved, so I have approved by vote of 5. Total 5, the shoreland permit application of Ali Malone. With the above conditions and on the meeting of April 6, 2023, today, develop this these written findings of fact and conclusion of law on remand of the Belgrade Board of Appeals and adopted the findings on April 6, 2023 and dated today as well. And so this will have Peter Rushton as a sheriff.
We didn't know what to put in, so just straight.
it'll only take us a couple of years to catch up on the paperwork.
So it'll be my honor to help walking you guys through this application. It was very clean and easy. So I guess
Pass that back.
Hands.
Application's coming for your signature.
we'll give you, you're gonna be in the permit today or tomorrow and
It'll be tomorrow or Monday.
once we get the
Yeah.
pictures.
I'll bring the pictures in tomorrow.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Taking good care of it.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Thank you all.
No, how you doing?
Golden Pond LLC night.
Yes, it is. Just a quick hit on this. This is the application that I was before you with 2 months ago, I think, Hans.
Yeah.
And someone made a suggestion to look at another alternative because the plan we had didn't conform, so. I think we have a good plan, and that's why we're here.
So, we will be moving in the agenda to the second application, it happened to be with Golden Pond LCC again. And we have a little, preview by, Mr. Frame on it. This application was here before, and we have now a new plan on it. So,
Technically, we pulled that application, correct, Hanson?
Yes, you approved the work on the cabin, which is an expansion,
No,
or, no, you took away the expansion, so
Yeah.
he's doing the maintenance, leveling the cabin. And this is the, basically expansion detached. Put back,
behind the 100-foot mark, 714 feet, yeah.
okay, so let me read the details of it so the public knows, what is it about. So, the applicant is Golden Pond LTC, and the owner is Bill and Melissa. Goose.
Goose, and they're online with us. also.
All right, great,
Yeah.
welcome. So, the specific location of the property is in 128 Chester
Wayne,
Wing Road, map 30, lot 3A-1. And this is right on Great Pond. The current use of the property is residential. The proposed construction is to add a 12 by 20 bunkhouse with 20 feet deck. The existing sewage disposal system type and capacity is added or included in the application. And presently, there's a number of 2 bedrooms, and bedrooms to be added under this application will be 1. When did you purchase the property on the shoreline? The property was purchased on March of 2022. There's a information in the package for septic design. The total lot area is 23,900 square feet. And the lot area within the shoreline zone is the same amount, 23,900 square feet. The square footage of unmitigated surface within the shoreline zone, including all the structures, driveway, parking, walkways, and so on, is 4,580 square feet. And that's the same total area of clear openings of wood vegetation. The total number of structures on the lot is 2. And the proposed structure square footage is 1,674 square feet. That's the that's the present one, and the proposed one will be 2,034 square feet. So with that, I open the floor for discussion from the board.
To be clear, is that an 8 by 20 deck?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you like to like me to give a little description about the property?
You can.
Sure. It's, this is an incredibly unique piece of property. It's a log home that's 120 years old. It's the original structure on Woodland Camps Road. It's in great shape. The owners are committed to maintaining this property for many years to come for their son and their grandkids. And it's a spectacular piece of property, spectacular building. And we're just trying to maintain it. We were trying to add on back 30 or 40 years ago, there was a wing put on the right side of the structure. And we came before you a couple months ago to add an additional bedroom. But because of the square footage within the 100-foot zone, it didn't work. And so we looked at other options based on some suggestions that you made. And we have, if you look at the plot plan that I provided, you can see that the structure would be 114 feet back from the water. And it fits in nicely with the driveway, the new septic, it works out well. We already have submitted the, permit for the septic system, and that's been approved already.
I have just a couple of clarification type questions, if this is a good time.
Mhm.
In question number 8, regarding the square footage of unvegetated surface, at 4,580 square feet, does that include the new structure?
It does.
Okay. That's a good thing. And then my other clarification is so in question 5, it talks about a 12 by 20 bunkhouse and an 8 by 20 deck for a total of 400 square feet. But down at the bottom where you have 2,034 feet, that's an addition of 360 square feet. And I assume that number is incorrect because the 420 is the same, the 400 is the same as on your site drawing. That shows a 400 square foot structure. Am I getting that correct, or is that?
We'll do some quick math.
8 by 20 is 400, so. 40 feet short.
Yeah, it would be 400.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of fixing that.
Yeah.
That number on the original application.
And also there's some the wording change that, well, if you want to talk about the wording change on the.
Yeah, the new designations that are coming up from the state, the end of April. This would be what they call the detached bedroom. Where it's bunkhouses, they are taking plumbing away from bunkhouses. And the new definition, not today, but moving forward, bunkhouses will not have plumbing.
I see.
And that's why they call this a detached bedroom in the future. And I'm gonna ask Doug to cross it out, the original here too, and initial it, the detached bedroom, that way, moving forward, we know exactly what it is. Because the detached bedroom will be allowed to have plumbing and no cooking devices.
So is there a change to the application that's been made that's not on our form, or is that just something?
There needs to be, for clarification, I would like him to cross out this.
Okay.
And this is, I'm sorry, I made you do it to a copy, this is.
That's fine.
And Hans, that's in the state plumbing code versus DEP, the shoreline zoning
Exactly,
model ordinance.
and everybody's trying to work to get the definitions coordinated. So that the plumbing code matches the building code and matches the shoreline zoning ordinance, and
Okay, so DEP will have to play catch up.
we're gonna talk a little bit more about that later.
Okay.
So, as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the board?
I have a kind of a comment, it's question first, but I noticed on both applications that we've had tonight that the area of square footage of unvegetated surface and the area of cleared openings are both the same. And I just wanted to kind of make sure that we're on the same wavelength, that if this were the water and this was the lot being developed or was already developed, if you had, say, a building down here and a building here, the sidewalk and footpath for the water and the driveway, these are the areas that we're talking about as being unvegetated surfaces, whereas the cleared opening would essentially be the area where the canopy does not exist. So I guess maybe I'm not, I'm bringing something up that you already know.
Yeah,
Just wonder how
I think
both-
the canopy is, the canopy would be a smaller number because it, overhangs, if you will. So the number that I provided is the actual kind of, if you look at it one dimensionally, it's a footprint. But if obviously with the trees, you go up and then that canopy.
So your number is actually being provided as a bigger number.
Correct.
For the cleared opening than what actually makes it.
Yeah. I don't think that's an issue here, but it could be in other circumstances, so.
Yeah.
So
Any other questions?
for me. All I had is that one clear, correction.
Sarah, could we ask, Bill, if you'd like to say anything? That
Sure. Certainly. Mr. and Mrs. Goose,
Seems correct.
if you would like to say anything to the board, we'll be happy to hear you.
Yes, thank you. This is Bill. My wife isn't here right now. Yeah, I just appreciate all the input that Doug has received from, the previous meeting. And we are people that really respect properties. When we went to see this place last January, we fell in love with it immediately. We knew that it was pretty special. And we immediately began to think about what we could do with this place. We took the whole year to make any decisions or decide what we wanted to do. And so I think what we're going to do with the cabin and with the addition and so on is very much in keeping with the property as it was originally built. And I don't know if anybody's been there or not, but if you look at some of the logs around the main entrance from the driveway, you will see lots of carvings in the logs from people who have been there in the past, going back as far as 25 or 26. So, that just speaks to the history of the place, and we totally respect that. And so obviously we're going to keep, the carvings as they are. And I think our intent is also to improve the property and to make sure that, we take care of the property. We will be doing some landscaping, and that will be, that would include planting some trees. That's our thought. Probably that has to go to the board. I don't know, but we will be replacing some of the trees that were taken down.
So that does raise a question. So the implication being there's some trees need to be cut to accommodate this.
They were taken down already,
For the septic.
the septic, and Hans came out and,
Okay,
yeah, we went over all those.
okay, thank you.
Beyond 100 feet.
Yeah, it's beyond 100 anyway. Right.
Thank you so much.
So there are other people here, and they may be for this application. I don't know if they have anything they wish to say or not.
You hear that, Kristen Hopkins? Are you interested in speaking to the board about this application?
I had nothing in particular. We are kind of abutters and share some easements with the properties. So just interested in understanding, what was being proposed here. My sister is also on the line, Karen. I don't know if you've had any questions.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I won't switch on my camera because I'm recovering from surgery. But
That's fine.
I have a couple of questions about the square foot. Well, first of all, I'd like to say hello to our new neighbor because I have not been able to meet him yet. But the original application, the square footage on the original application was for over 1,800 square feet. And now on this application, the square feet footage is listed at 1,670. And it is my understanding from my reading of both state and town ordinances that obviously the square footage that the cabin is already right now is over, not only for the 100-foot distance from the shoreline, but it's over for the entire property unless I am incorrect. And I would like to hear a little bit more about what the maximum footage is, because in the past, there are other neighboring properties that have asked for building permit to build bunkhouses, and those building permits were denied. So I would like to hear what the actual maximum square footage is for a property of those characteristics.
It's 20%, 20%, it comes to 4,780 square feet. And what they're proposing is 4,580, so they're under by 200 square feet.
Yes,
Well,
so
it might-
you're,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I have been in contact with Maine DEP, and I was told that the maximum is 1,500, and it's an original, an original 1,000, and then when you move back, it can be another 500. And there's already more than 1,500 square feet built. This obviously a decision like this doesn't only affect their property, it affects other properties. So I'm curious to see that I had been given different information.
If the bunkhouse had been proposed within 75 feet of the lake, you're absolutely
Okay.
correct. The maximum footprint would have been 1,500 square feet. But in this
Mhm.
case, they're proposing it to be more than 100 feet away from the lake, so that's not applicable.
Okay,
And
And
that's, as good as it gets kind of thing.
all right, I know, and then the other item that was mentioned in the last meeting was reducing the square footage by removing part of the deck, and that's at that time was when the bunkhouse was proposed. So we are no longer talking about altering the original log cabin. Am I correct?
That's right.
Okay.
It's voice here that we are nodding with you that that's correct.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
was not sure you heard.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions that people in zooming in would like to post to the board or comments? I see none. So this will be probably the last call for the board to make any comments.
If you could just make the correction on the original and initial and date it, that'd be good.
We do that now. Sure.
My only comment is, I think as we go through the conclusions of wrapping up the ordinance, that there, I think we need the condition that this no cooking facilities be included in
Yeah.
They don't have any agreement for that.
the.
That's not a problem at all.
So we're gonna move forward with the finding of facts. You guys know this drill already. We've already done it once this evening, so please be patient with us. So finding of facts and conclusion of law. The applicant is Melissa and Bill Goose. And the applicant address is 128 Chester Plain, map 30 and lot 38-1. So the applicants on today be 4/6/2023. Apply for a shore loan permit to add 12 by 20 detached bedroom with 8 by 20 depth. This application was present to the planning board on April 6, 2023. The findings of fact and conclusion of law were developed in conclusion with consideration of the permit application. The conclusions of law. Based upon the application materials, testimony, statements, evidence, documents, and other materials submitted to it and the above finding of fact, the Belgrade Planning Board finds that the project is permitted for use under section 14, table 1 in the ordinance, and further makes the following conclusion based on the application provisions in section 16D of the ordinance. Number 1, will this application will maintain safe and healthy conditions? By the vote of the board, this standard was found to be met.
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Seal?
Yes,
Correct? And I vote yes too, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed. Will this application will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface water? By vote of the board, this standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Seal?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed. Will this application adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewater? By vote of the board, the standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Seal?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
Sarah also vote yes, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, and other wildlife habitat. By vote of the board, this standard was found to be met.
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Okay, Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
And I will also yes, 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland waters. By vote of the board, this standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Shield?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
And I also vote yes, so it's 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will protect archaeological and historical resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. By vote of the board, this standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Shield?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
And I also vote yes, it's 5 in favor, none opposed. This application will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use. By vote of the board, this standard was found to be met. Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
yes,
Craig?
Yes.
And me too, I vote yes, so 5 in favor, none opposed. So this next item, we're gonna be reading everything that is applicable to it, and we'll vote at the end. We want to say that this application is in conformance with the provisions of section 15 of land use standards. And the first standard is minimal lot size. That's applicable.
Yeah,
Principal and accessory structures. That's applicable. Campgrounds. And individual private campsites. And commercial and industrial usages. And parking areas. And road and driveways. And signs. And stormwater runoff.
yes.
Yes. Septic waste disposal systems.
Yes.
Yes. Essential services. NA. Mineral exploration and extraction. NA. Agriculture. NA. Timber harvesting and land management roads. NA. Clearing or removal of vegetation for activities other than timber harvesting. NA. Hazard trees, stormwater damaged trees, and dead tree removal. NA. Exceptions to clearing and vegetation removal requirements.
NA.
NA. Revegetation requirements. Erosion and sedimentation control.
Yes.
I'm sorry, shoreline stabilization. NA. Soils.
They put in their septic.
Things are gonna be on post, isn't it?
It is.
That's what else applies to this new septic though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, now we include it. Water quality. Yes.
Yes.
Historical and archaeological sites. NA. Resource protection.
No.
NA. So, in conformance with the provisions of section 15, we have a total of 7 items that we included. That is minimum lot standards, principal and accessory structures, storm water runoff, septic waste disposal systems, erosion and sedimentation control, soils and water quality by vote of the board. This standard was met on the evidence in record and for the items I already read. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So 5 in favor, none opposed. So, we come to, the conclusions of conditions of approval needed to meet required Belgrade SLZ ordinance findings in section 16B. And it's the same ones that we read before. Number 1 is management of stormwater runoff from the new or expanded structures in accordance to section 15 of the Belgrade Shore Land Zoning Ordinance and main DEP best management practices. We want to be following those. Then also the second one is planning, the planning board's approval to this project is limited to the description in the application and depicted in the accompanying site plan and other application submissions. Any changes to or deviations from the application, site plan, and other application submissions as approved by the planning board must receive prior approval by the board, including and not limited to changes to the proposed location, footprint, and height of the structures, changes in the numbers of bedrooms, roads, driveways, parking, wells, subsurface wastewater disposal systems, the extent and location of the vegetated areas, pre-cutting and natural vegetation clearing, methods of soil erosion control and stormwater runoff. And Mr. Goose, I'm so sorry, this is such a long statement and probably an overstatement here, but we have previous applicants that they come to this board and they get the permit and they actually have deviations that are never come back. So you're a newcomer, we welcome you, and you already give us your pledge of playing by the rules, and we're very happy to hear all that.
Thank you.
So,
I certainly do pledge by the rules.
thank you so very much. And the reason that statement is there is because in the recent years, we have a little bit of issues with that. And we take all this very seriously. So thank you so much for your upfront pledge. We don't hear that usually. So now we're gonna take a vote to close the application.
Actually, Sarah, I'd like to propose
Oh,
along with
that's right.
Rich, another condition regarding the bunkhouse and simply that the bunkhouse may not contain cooking facilities.
Yeah. Forgot about that, I'm sorry. So we're gonna add that. The condition will read: bunkhouse may not contain cooking facilities, Mr. Goose.
Understood, and that's not anywhere in the plans.
But if you change plans, you can come back.
Okay, thank you.
To throw out.
Just for your, this is just a precaution because there've been problems elsewhere where bunkhouses evolve, as I said earlier, in the meeting, into a second residential structure. And then we and everybody else has problems, and this just clarifies it.
Thank you.
Just a small point to when I was working at the DEP and the attorney, if I ever put in may not, he always scratched out may and put shall not. So it may be better legal word that shall not have to it, but I never really saw the difference myself, but every time I
Yeah.
put in may.
Yeah, let's use shall. I got the same advice from the Attorney General's office, so
Okay,
I guess I've been retired long enough that I forgot the finer points or something.
yeah, Mr. Goose, you're a newcomer here. The point being is that people on the side start doing these things and everybody get tempted to do the same thing. And then when somebody speak out that should not be done, we get a lot of people coming to the town office about this. So, thank you so very much for your application. And now we're gonna do the final vote on this. And so based on the above finding of facts and conclusions of law on today, April 6, 2003, the town of Belgrade Planning Board approved by vote this application. Mr. Baker,
Yes,
Nick,
yes.
Mr. Seal,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
and I also approve of this application. It's not 5 votes. We approve by a vote of 5, the shoreline permit application of Mr. Bill and Melissa Goose. With the above conditions, and at the meeting of 4/6/23, there's something missing in here, but develop this written finding of facts and conclusion of law on remand from the Belgrade Board of Appeals and adopted these findings of April 6, 2023. And I will sign this off as chair of the planning board. And Mr. Bruce, you're ready. You're good to get your permit from Hans here. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We're looking forward to see you in Belgrade.
There's some boundary buildings.
I know.
Oh, you're gonna be busy this season.
70 degrees next week.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll drive somebody.
Yeah.
You need anything else from me tonight, contact me tomorrow, or that's Friday. Pretty good. Yeah, great, thanks.
Bring them or email up there.
Okay. I gotta come get the permit, or you can mail it.
I'll mail.
I'll just email it to you then. You don't want to listen for you? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Frame.
I'll let you use your ink.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
And paper.
Appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
Nice meeting
All right, so next item on the agenda.
Have that application now. Oh,
Been signed?
Oh, no, that's,
you. You can pass. it.
oh. is that-
Oh, yeah. I thought I gave it to you, I'm sorry. We're getting the application, signed up and wrapped up over here. Before going to the next,
yeah.
item,
Maybe what
so,
visitor.
we look forward to hear, I'm sorry, your name again?
My name is John Hall.
All right.
I J&J Holdings owns property at 444 Smithfield Road. And I'm here tonight to talk to you about zoning changes to that parcel. I met with Hans briefly last week and he wasn't sure how to proceed with my proposition and recommended that I come and speak to all of y'all. Right now it is listed as commercial and retail. I am looking potentially to change that to commercial and residential, a mixed use in the same property, no changes to the actual footprint of the building. It used to be a general store. Right now, part of the building is a licensed medical cannabis grow. And just looking to see what I can do with the town to move forward with it.
All right, so which property is this? Where's it located?
It used to be the North Belgrade General Store.
Or double D's, I think,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
right across from the lumber.
Right next to the lumber mill, right across from the small fire station.
Right,
No, we don't have zoning in town.
No.
That parcel isn't zoned any particular district. We've got our comprehensive plan.
Well, it's
yeah,
village,
but that doesn't, that's not an ordinance,
part of the village zone, it's yellow,
right?
in general development, but it's the reason I wanted to have him come ask you is because it's going backwards, going from commercial to residential.
It's still gonna stay commercial to an extent, or?
I
Yeah,
would like to. It just gives me more freedom with potential uses of the property moving forward. Right now, I'm trying to consolidate bills and not pay rent on top of owning the building and live in it. So that I can save money, get caught up on property taxes that were due to the town from the previous owner. And just trying to unbury things and get things taken care of the proper way. And eventually I would move out of there. And I don't know what I would do with it in the future.
Right, right.
I'm just trying to see what I'm legally allowed to do with the property.
So this really comes down to, under what circumstances might that trigger the commercial development review ordinance? And right now it's commercial,
Right, so,
and moving to
change.
commercial and residential in the same thing should not be a problem under the ordinance at all. In that change, there's some criteria where if you go, because when that went from retail to the grow facility, I don't believe any commercial development review ordinance approval was required by Gary or the code enforcement officer at the time. And, if you go from something that doesn't have a lot of, traffic to like retail, where you would have a restaurant or something like that, then there's a possibility of triggering the ordinance at that point.
The commercial review,
Yeah,
yeah, that would be
but
understandable.
it'd be driven by that, and, or if you went, I mean, with grow facilities, they do have some, you know, they have obviously fertilizer and sometimes pesticides and stuff like that. If you went to something like, say, furniture refinishing business that you generate a lot of hazardous waste, it would trigger the ordinance then, but
Makes sense.
for, you know, other than you sort of unique circumstances like that, my take is that it would not trigger the commercial ordinance.
George, that was exactly
Right.
what we discussed, and my concern was he does have fertilizers and so forth, and you know, some flammables. So whether a flame-proof cabinet would be required, you know, outside of living spaces, or
I would have to look into the flammability because I use powdered minerals.
like phosphorus.
Yeah,
Oh, I can get you guys a complete list of what I use and the makeup.
I
so,
don't know, it's really.
yeah, I'm not sure that really falls under our jurisdiction, because, I mean, that's an existing use. And, you know, there may or may not be, some, concerns about fire hazards and the like because of some of the chemicals that, you know, you use in the grow facility kind of thing, but unless it triggers the commercial development review ordinance, that's not our, you know, at least not the planning board's concern.
And, you know, it was retail in the past. So I gotta figure, you know, that's gotta be some sort of grandfather, and if you decided to go back. And I also know from firsthand, that when the last owners bought it, as far as when it was a retail, they converted the Firehouse Tavern, which was the bar part of it, into an apartment and residence. So they did that for the children. So, so that building's been a lot of things. It's been a store.
That is the understatement of the evening. Every year I learn more from more and more residents.
Oh, God.
It's been a store / bar because the bar, Firehouse Tavern, was attached to it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's been a store and a bar for many, many years. I think maybe even an arcade. at one
It started
point.
as an open air drying shed, and then it was a fried chicken shack, then an ice cream parlor, then the general store, and then in the early 90s, they added the Firehouse Tavern, Double D's, which then became the residential apartment. And then the gentleman that I bought it from tore everything out and turned it into a campus cultivation facility.
Okay.
What a story.
So, I think in multiple ways, it's grandfathered in.
It might very well be, yeah, no, that's kind of covered the bases,
Very versatile, that building.
I mean, I can't think of a,
Did you say that you may at some point have both a residence and a commercial facility at the property?
That's my hope, and that is for my wife and I to live there.
Okay. The only question I have would be, would that, in terms of the minimum lot size law or whatever, require double or, you had two different, you know, a residential and a commercial, is the property big enough for those? And I don't know the minimum lot size law well, not law, but ordinance well enough to know whether that could be an issue.
it could be an issue depending on the lot, on the size of the lot, do you know?
I'm gonna say no, because you've got them in the village all over. You've got people, you know, with hairstyling and rental rooms upstairs and a toy store downstairs.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of those are grandfathered.
And why wouldn't this building?
Well, because it's not currently a residential. Whether, because it was residential in the past, it's grandfathered. I don't know the answer to that question, but you know, right at the moment, it's entirely commercial. Cause you know, we've had this. Well, the old Clark Marine building there, when that was proposed for I mean, that was 3 commercial. Go from 1 commercial to 3 commercial uses. You may recall that was at issue there. Actually, that's, you know, this is the same issue that we encountered with the Brightside Marina. I mean, that went to the state Supreme Court. I mean, this is a slam dunk for us, you know, in terms of it being potentially an issue when you have multiple uses on the same parcel.
Well, as far as that goes, so if you're living there and have commercial use, when does it switch over to a home-based business? But then you probably lose your commercial aspect of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty solid definition of home business or home occupation. I can't remember the exact term that they use in the ordinance and in the minimum lot size ordinance too. I guess it would depend. Do you know what kind of commercial use you're talking about? I mean, is it like an office to complement?
It would
For
just
you-
be, it would be continued cultivation.
It would be,
With me living
okay,
there.
yeah, that would be home occupation.
Well, why wouldn't it be?
How big is the lot?
The lot is right about 1 acre.
Yeah, the definition is that the commercial use, if it's part of a residence, or in this case, you're making a residence part of it, you know, from the commercial, but regardless is, you know, intended for things like, well, why don't I just read it to you? That'd be easier, I think, rather than me saying something incorrect. So home occupation or profession which is carried on in a dwelling unit or accessory building, which is clearly incidental and secondary to the residential use of the dwelling, carried on by a member of the family residing in the dwelling, which would be the case here, includes no more than 2 outside employees not residing in the dwelling unit, which does not alter the residential character of the neighborhood. So clearly, you know, that is thinking about a home being turned partially into
So we could
an
potentially
occupation. You're going in the other direction.
take the commercial in its entirety and change it to residential and then allow a home-based operation out of that residence.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think that this is, from what you've told us so far, all that. Well, I guess it comes down to the lot size question, doesn't it? How large a lot is that?
1 acre.
I believe it's 1 acre.
Commercial uses require 60, although this is a grandfather.
Yeah, so that was a grandfather
Question
lot.
I'm trying to figure out is residential needs 40, and is there somewhere in our minimum lot size ordinance that says you need the equal amount of lot area for each use?
Yeah, no, the language is very similar to I mean, this is in shoreline zoning, but the language is almost exactly the same.
The minimum lot, you are allowed duplex. So that would be 2 living structures. Again, this is not residential lot, but duplex business. I mean, a duplex building is basically what he's making.
What I'd like,
One for residential, one for commercial.
The thing I'm getting at, it's already been there and done that. So it's already been commercial and residential at the same time. So I don't know. That's gonna throw a little loop into something.
That's why he's here.
trying to figure it all out because one of the owners in between didn't follow the process.
Well, I had a copy of the minimum lot size ordinance.
It's the green one right there. Your left hand, in the back of it.
Oh, this is it.
The green one.
If you got a town issue packet, it's behind, it's in my green cover.
That's the back of it.
So used to fat ordinances, I go right past it.
I have the whole thing electronically, so I use Google.
Search for terms.
But I wish I had done what they have done.
Okay, so, this is, for anybody that cares to look, it's on page 7. Paragraph 5, multiple land uses, multiple land uses or more than one occurrence of the same land use shall be permitted on a lot, provided that the dimensional characteristics of the lot are equal to or exceed the sum of the individual dimensional requirements. Section 5, and that's where the 60,000 square feet for commercial and 40,000 for residential is. So potentially you need 100,000 square feet.
So if it's only been commercial, or is commercial now, you need 1640, 100,000 square feet to get a permit. For both. Okay.
Yeah, what I don't know though is the answer to is the grandfathering question that you raised, whether you know, how far does pre-existing use. So this what, like you said, this what there was a residential use there at one point as and a commercial use, just like what you're proposing. But with a entirely commercial use since then. And does that, I don't know how that works, if that interrupts that grandfathering.
Is the plumbing fixtures, like for the toilet still on the floor?
Yep.
And the shower, and all the plumbing
All the plumbing.
exiting to the sewer is still in place? So all we need to do is reconnect everything.
Yeah, and I didn't think that, I thought once something was grandfathered, it doesn't go away. Wasn't that the impression, Gary said he brought up court cases for us to,
Yeah.
that's commercial, so I don't know. And it was mainly the one that he focused on was the dance studio down in the.
Right,
depot.
I remember that.
And
I
they
just don't,
the court case brought that back up, so that could become commercial again because it doesn't go away.
I think you're right about that. That never made sense to me, but I think you're right about that.
And so, I guess your best bet is either for Hans to contact our town attorney and ask him, or contact your own attorney. Because I don't know, we'd have to refer to our town attorney. I would think if this
Yeah.
came in front of us.
Right, yeah, no, I agree.
And then,
Yeah, I think that would be a good question because this is gonna come up again. And just because it's come up in the past and it'd be nice to. Have a clear answer so that we don't have to dub around with it.
All right, I'll shoot you an email.
let me ask you a hypothetical question. If a property owner doesn't go through the planning process and changes the use unilaterally, what does that do to grandfathering? So in this case, we had an owner, let's call that owner A. He went through the process, he had that property as a residence and a commercial business. Then owner B ripped everything out without consulting the town, getting any permits whatsoever. And then my company, owner C, comes in and realizes what he's done and is trying to remedy things. What would the action of the town be? Would it be to revert back to the last legal zoning? Or leave things as it is and move forward?
We don't know.
You're asking questions above our pay grade.
Can you see evidence of the partition that used to be there?
There was never a partition
So the residents,
that just flowed into it. Because, so let's imagine the building is essentially a big T. The length of the T was the original general store. And then right where the perpendicular to the road attaches was a walk-in cooler. And that was the back room for both the bar on this side and the convenience store. They never closed off that hallway that connected everything when it was a residence.
Yeah, so they never put a door in there.
They could just walk through and, you know, they had a curtain up that said employees only. You know, just like down at Christie's, you see where the back door is to go into the coolers, but you're not supposed to go back there.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the answer to your question really comes back again to how long is something grandfathered?
Yeah,
What you do inside of the building. If it's, say it had both a residence and a commercial use in the building. And you tore everything out. You still, as in my mind, grandfather does a commercial and residential use. It's just how far does that grandfathering go before you lose it? And there's nothing in the ordinance that I think defines that.
no, there isn't.
And it'd be nice to have some guidance. I kind of think that if it isn't specifically worded in the ordinance, that the grandfathering goes with it, until you put something in there
Until you
that
change.
wipes it out.
Yeah,
If it exists and it doesn't specifically say when it ends and
Yeah.
it's forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta be specific about.
well, I agree with that, if that's the answer we get from the town attorney,
And does the grandfathering pertain strictly to prior approval, approved? Or like you said, someone comes in there and makes changes but never gets it approved, and then the next person wants to continue those illegal, you know?
yeah, well, but if it was grandfathered. You know, for all those uses, it doesn't much matter if they never got a permit or not.
Right, right. I'm
And
saying, if at one time the building was used for something that was never permitted, and the building is then sold, do the new owners get grandfathered into that illegal, you know,
Oh, yeah, say it was built brand new at that point and
Yeah.
illegally, and that's a different kettle of fish, I think.
Yeah. So there's a lot.
Yeah, but this has been there forever, and
from a plumbing inspector perspective, nothing stopping him from putting all the fixtures back. And then his internal structure, it's his business, he can put up partitions to section off different strains of herb or whatever you want to do. So. The building's the
Yeah,
building,
I
it's
don't-
been there forever,
well, the answer to that.
and all the bones are still there.
Yeah, I mean, this really all only comes down to a fairly narrow legal issue, you know, I mean, you know, that's like you said, it's been all kinds of different uses over the years, and one more change is nobody's gonna probably even notice. It's
Tradition.
was
And you definitely don't
Very
have
much
any more traffic on that anymore.
right.
So,
Did you relatively recently purchase that?
The property transferred to me in May of 2021.
Okay. This has nothing to do with what the questions you've asked, but I just want to make sure you know that when that was double B's, their underground gasoline storage tanks leaked there and contaminated some wells in the area. And I used to work at DEP, and I know that we did a lot of cleanup there.
My understanding was they had to haul everything out down to Gorham, have it incinerated and then hauled back to replace all the material.
Yeah, whether they hauled it back, I don't know, or brought in clean fill, but, just beware if you are thinking about living there yourself, you might want to have your well tested.
I already had the water tested. I make sure what goes into my plants.
Okay, because, yeah, that's right, gasoline would not do good things for your plants.
They would not be very happy.
Yeah, right, especially with ethanol in it.
Do you know when the first residential unit went in there, when they built the housing?
I don't. It would have been, so the original owner that had the gasoline leak, he lost the property to either foreclosure or tax sale. The stories have been back and forth, depends who you listen to. But then friends of his bought the property back and gave it back to him. And that was when he started living there. And trying to run the store.
Can't make this stuff up, can you?
I figured you'd have all the same information in he had.
Well, I kind of, but I don't know, I don't remember quite the details.
There's obviously a backstory there.
I'm sure there is.
I would think, Fonz, if you could contact the town attorney on the grandfathering question. Then, if it's grandfather, I think, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then one last question, fences in town. What are the restrictions, requirements, setbacks?
Fences can go right to the property line. Statewide rule of thumb is 6 feet tall. Unless it's necessary, if there's a necessity for it to be taller, then that can be reviewed by the code officer.
For security, I could go taller.
With a health officer approval.
Okay.
That falls under health officer for some reason.
Okay. Who is the
Yeah.
health officer?
Andrew Dallas.
I think he's listed on the town webpage.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have anything to do.
Yeah, I just figured it'd be a.
Yeah,
great
no,
time to
stop
ask.
shopping.
Yeah. It's not in the immediate plans, but I always try and make things better over time. But the property has to pay for itself.
All right. Why don't you be in touch with me like Monday or Tuesday?
Sound good?
I should have a reply by then.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
All right, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Me too.
I think when my sons played baseball, Double D's was one of the sponsors for one of the kids' teams here in town.
Sarah, there is one thing that's not on the agenda, is this letter came in this afternoon, and Mary made copies and put it out here, I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I just looked at it before the meeting.
All right. So that, isn't that the letter?
As well.
See. So you're talking about the letter from Mr. Finley? That's in the agenda, letter from Finley.
Oh, it's, I'm sorry, yeah, I did that last minute, I guess, I forgot.
It's okay. So, so that will be our next item on the agenda. I personally know Mr. Finley. So I will refrain myself from the discussion.
This kind of intersects with, the discussion we had at the last meeting about the work that had been done there and, well, let me ask you, a question, Hans. Is he, it's hard to know, the way it's written is he hadn't specifically asked for a response, but it seems to me if he's bothered to write to us, we owe him a response. I don't know what others think, but, I mean, clearly doesn't quite understand the ordinance, but that's fine. That's not a big deal, but, I'm just wondering, if you've had any other communications with him or this just coming cold.
This is it, and, basically he's just throwing stones. The lot was cleared before, I don't know when the last time he saw it was, but it's been cleared for longer than
Long
I've
time.
been in town.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, if not longer.
And then, you know, yes, changes have been done, it started by timbering, which you're allowed to timber your property. Right?
Well, except that if it's in advance of it's considered part of development. If it's part in prep for
And see,
more,
that's
but if,
why I was watching this very closely to see when it changed from a timber operation to a site prep. And that's when I stepped in.
great,
When they started bringing it fill, making it passable, that's when I
great.
put in the stop. Harvesting the trees, you know, I think everybody does that.
Yeah, but I think I agree with George that if he's cutting the trees with the intent on doing a commercial thing, then that's part of the commercial.
Yeah, and if you look at the definition in the ordinance, it says as much.
One
But-
question.
but-
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask Hans, did you get a chance to find the actual permit? The original permit that was issued for this?
I did.
Did it say storage units or did it say?
Yeah, what
It
was the
basic
original
storage of his construction equipment?
It encompassed a lot of things. It encompassed retail, storage, office, equipment, material storage. And what it was basically is permissions for the use on that property. There was no site plan, there was no actual plan of this number of square feet is gonna be dedicated to this purpose, or, and there wasn't even a, you know, a plat. It was just strictly permissions. So anything that would have been done to that property would have had to come back here. So it was like the pre-sale, like for real estate, listed as approved for these uses.
Okay,
So they don't have a permit for a building.
They got basically a letter of approval for specific uses.
uh,
So then you're right, they can harvest all they want because there's no permit to do it in building.
Well, that's the other thing, is how much of a commercial lot can you clear? That's not in the ordinance. There's no minimum maximum. Clearing, you don't have to keep foliage, and I mean, that's one point he makes, is they have this design review board. Well, that's another step good for them, but who's, you know, the design police? We have a tree warden.
in the original approval, that Ron Belvance received, did it, you said there was no site plan as part of that approval, which is questionable, but anyway, so be it. Was there any specification of how much land would be cleared and filled? Because clearly Ron Belvance brought in quite a bit of fill himself, and there must have been some limits to what was approved.
I didn't see any documentation to that at all.
Yeah.
And it included the minutes we needed.
All right.
So Mr. Bellman is aware of the fact that he cannot build a thing there.
Well, he doesn't own it.
Yeah, he doesn't own it anymore.
Oh, he doesn't own it
So,
anymore. So the new owners are aware of that?
They're aware that it was approved for specific uses,
Mhm.
but again, they've never come here. And I don't think it's established anywhere other than setbacks.
So this is just going off the hearsay that he heard storage units are going in there. Nothing's been officially filed or brought before anyone.
right.
That's all verbal.
I mean, my take from this is, and forgive me, I'm brand new and I will catch up and I got some reading to do, but. You know, I think what he's saying is there are a lot of things you can go by the books and, you know, it might be perfectly legal through ordinances to build a storage unit. But will this board take into consideration aesthetics and like, do we want, you know, if we're looking to preserve, our town. Do we want an ugly, storage unit? Right on the road next to like nice camps where people come up, summertime. I think that's what he's saying. Like, would we take that into consideration?
Yeah, and I mean, that's a good way to sum it up. We can't exactly look at it quite as holistically as he's putting it, but because our commercial development review ordinance isn't intended so much to prevent commercial development as it is to mitigate the worst of the impacts of commercial development, because since Belgrade doesn't have zoning, and this isn't zoning, you know, it's intended to make sure that there are vegetative buffers between it and potentially residential properties next door or between it and the road, and that kind of thing, but not necessarily prohibit it. And the reality of it is, you know, a lot of times the public, you know, even after we've approved it and, you know, I mean, this is a little bit of an oddball case, but we get a lot of these that are after the fact. So the damage has already been done by the time the application is submitted.
Right.
And so, you know, we require the planning, say, have a buffer along the highway, or, you know, well, it takes 25, 30 years for it to grow. And so, you know, people don't like looking at it as they drive by, and there's not a lot that can be done under the ordinance or by us, but
Especially if you buy a property and you're like, oh, I'm just timbering this. I got no plans. I'm just gonna timber. And then it's like, okay, now I want a, you know, a commercial spot here. And I don't have many trees to take down, just a couple more. But it's like, well, you've already taken down a bunch under the
Yeah.
guise of just timbering your property.
I mean, it's pretty clear from the way you described it, and just when you drive by it, it becomes clear too that, you know, clearly the planning board at the time when they approved this were not following the ordinance. You know, the vegetative, the fact that they just planted some token maple trees here, that's not following the ordinance that as it was approved in 2001. And so that's just a problem we got to live with, you know. But getting back to Mr. Finley's letter, I mean, you can't it's really difficult, I've found, to respond to a letter that of this nature, because you know, he sort of speaks to his and to extent others' values, some of which I share, but you know, as a planning board, that's not how we work, you know, that's not the rules that we have to live by, work by.
Yeah, the one question mark at the end, I mean, it is a prerequisite before anything, you know, he comes to us, he's already paid his fine. And contractors gotta pay theirs before they can continue to work, so I mean, that's kind of like a captain obvious question.
Well, so by continuing their work, you mean continuing their work without coming here for a commercial?
No, they come here first,
Oh, okay,
but even that his contractor, I mean,
so
not gonna be allowed to. Unless he finds. another
wouldn't that be our
contractor.
response to Mr. Bentley, just to say, this is, you know, what we've done? He seems to be familiar with some of it. What you've done, I should say. And to say that they can't do any further commercial development until they get approval from the planning board under the commercial development review ordinance. And
that's, I think, obvious by the stop work. That was slapped on him. No, he knows. He came in and,
Mr. Finley knows?
no, the owner,
Yeah,
Hendricks, I think he knows.
this is Steve McGee, right?
He was a contractor, he was the earthwork guy,
Oh, he's not the owner.
at Hendrickson.
So they're aware they cannot build fully compared,
Oh, yeah,
that's in writing.
he knows, yeah, very clear.
Thank you.
So our response is strictly, we don't have this, there are no plans to build a storage unit. He's just, this is an emotional letter and, you know, but there's nothing official.
We don't know at this point what.
Yeah, we have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on. That's what he's claiming in the letter, but
No,
as far as we're concerned.
I told him, you know, take the fines and put out erosion control, stop work if he put it off the lot. I did everything within my power.
Right.
I mean, this letter is addressed to the planning board, not to Hans, so, I don't know. I'd be willing to draft a letter to bring to the next meeting for everybody to look at if you think we need to respond. I kind of feel like we need to respond. I mean, I think you know, when the public contacts us, we have a certain obligation to be responsive to the public. I think anything I write in a letter and that we might approve in a letter is not gonna be satisfactory to Mr. Finley, but that's just, you know, the way it might be.
Keep it short.
Well, I mean,
I said I was not gonna weigh into this and your decision, but the part that you said that, and even in the planning, in the school board, I have the same thing. When people reach out to me, they need answers. And what we're told to do is that, oh, you call the superintendent and you let them figure it out. So listen, this person came to me, how am I gonna just ignore the call and don't do anything about it? People, when you're a public servant and people reach out to you, they need an answer. Even when the answer is, listen, I'm reaching out to you, please take this question to the superintendent. So I think it will be, parties from the board somehow make a statement to Mr. Finley,
Oh, for sure.
whatever you guys decide that to be.
And took the time to write the letter.
Yes.
Trying to figure out.
well, why don't I take a whack at a short response and I'll send it to you, Hans, to put in the packet for the next meeting
Yeah,
for everybody to look at. And that's it.
Yeah,
Seems like a appropriate course of action.
and I don't think it has to be a book.
No, I'm not
Sure.
gonna write any
Most
book.
of them are throwing stones at us. It's not-
I mean, it has to be, you know,
And
stick to the facts of the ordinance
you
and,
see, I am on a border to this property.
Mhm.
And the thing is that all the neighbors want to understand what's going on, including, especially the native nations person too. So
Yeah.
we don't really know what was going on. So people keep talking and they even keep calling and say, listen,
oh,
I cannot really say anything because I am in the planning board. I don't want to get involved.
yeah.
And
Is Mr. Finley also in the butter?
he's not a border, but he's a part of the large community,
Okay,
right? And so I think there's a lot of, let's say, gossip,
yeah,
right, of what's going on. And so I think sending back a letter explaining what, I didn't even know all of this. This is our news to me there. But again, I couldn't come to a planning board and ask about it, but it feels odd because I'm part of the planning board. So by this happening like so, I was not even under the knowledge that Mr. Finley was gonna send a letter by this being here, then and sending a letter saying this is what's going on. I think I will send a message to everybody that, well, the town is on the march with what's supposed to happen. That'd be my opinion on it. But I know I'm not part of the crafting and approving the letter to Mr. Finley.
what year was that original approval?
I don't recall.
It's like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. I mean, if there were permits issued, they're long expired.
Mhm.
I mean, there's not.
Well, yeah, but I was just thinking ahead to what I might want to include in that letter. I mean, I think I need to make
I'll pull
clear
it up
that this was
tomorrow.
previous.
Put up tomorrow, give you some facts.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
and again, I mean, part of it was being used commercially because he was using it commercially. As far as his equipment and, you know, all of his jacket equipment, his jacket blocking. He was storing material in there and people were coming in buying the material. So Ronnie was using it. So partial is. I mean, I'm not saying that the storage units would be grandfathered, but if there was a list of things that was allowed, then some of it was being used that way. So it's convoluted. It's not gonna be cut and dry.
Yeah, I do agree that he used that for his construction to their piles.
Yeah,
It wasn't a permit and he never did.
But is there a difference between storing your own personal commercial equipment and as opposed to storing storage for public rental? You know, I mean, that's what it sounds like. what you're saying, it's gonna be public storage. There's a
Yeah,
difference between that.
Yeah, under some circumstances, it wouldn't make a difference. So for example, if you had a construction company and you were storing your own company's equipment in a yard that you, and it originally was, you know, woods or whatever, you know, to do that, if it was a large enough area, would trigger this ordinance. To, you know, like I was saying before, it would trigger things like providing a buffer around that equipment, so say the neighbors wouldn't see it glaring through their kitchen window kind of thing.
But say for instance, if I were to be owner of that property and I would want to put storage units. Those could be approved here, could they?
Oh, yeah. And we
There's
have,
storage units down in the village.
Yeah,
Way down in the village.
yeah,
behind
yeah,
the
or
baseball.
out Route 135, there've been two sets of units proved down there.
Yeah, and they recently sold again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just,
They're gonna add on.
like I said before, there's nothing in the ordinance that prohibits it. It's a question of how do you do it? You know, in an effort to mitigate to a certain extent in part, you know, the appearance, improve the appearance, you know,
Aesthetics.
but you know, it doesn't say you can't paint it pink if you want.
Yeah. And just a clarification, you mentioned, I think, that the ordinance even back 10, 15 years ago required, I know it required screening, but I don't remember it saying any more than screening. I may be wrong, but I didn't think it had, now we've got, it's got to be so many feet wide and whatever, but you know, I was back on the board about that time and I'm thinking there's Christie's, and he got a permit for parking below the store. And we required him to plant, turned out to be trees that I don't think grew very tall anyway, but it was like, you need to plant 4 trees along here to provide some screening.
Right.
There was another one. And I just don't recall, and I don't have the old ordinance there, but it was Hawes's facility. When he put the wood processing or whatever, we required screening and it was a row of trees along the road. I don't remember it being very detailed as to what it said.
Bellman said to put in 10 trees, and from what I could see, they're still there.
Yeah, no, the only reason I know at all is when I worked on the comprehensive plan in 2013-14. I was on a committee, economic development committee, some of you've heard this story before, and I apologize for that. A number of business people came to that committee and complained about the planning board showing favoritism in applying that ordinance. And so we felt like we needed to look into it, and KV Cog didn't have the time. So what I did was I went to the Old Town office, and Mary Vogel got out all the applications that have been submitted and approved going back in 2001. And I had the old version of the ordinance too, and I went through to see what standards hadn't been applied at all. I didn't make any judgment about appropriately or not, but which ones had been applied, which ones hadn't, which ones were waived, because a lot of them were waived, just and no reason given. In fact, they weren't even requested to be waived, and they were waived. And I don't remember that particular one, but Christie's I remember, because that was around 2011, I believe, when that was approved. And I remember, well, a bunch of others, but Kevin Hawes's firewood facility. And clearly a lot of what I concluded and what this whole subcommittee concluded was, in fact, we wrote it up as a report, was that the planning board wasn't showing favoritism. It was just applying the ordinance inconsistently and, or inappropriately. Visual screening was one of the things that, along with stormwater management, that was oftentimes just ignored or waived or, and I'm pretty sure it was in that 2001 original version of the ordinance that I think it was 25 or 35 feet, visual screen.
You may be right.
But it was a little more complex than that, but so, but it could have, you know, like in Christie's case, I could see where somebody would have interpreted the ordinance that because there wasn't any trees there originally, that they didn't have to do it, because the ordinance was kind of wishy-washy.
Yeah.
But in a site like that was wooded, that it was pretty clear you had to keep it 25 to 35. I can't remember the exact number, like a natural buffer between it and the public road.
I think Kevin's place would have met the same, I think the same kind of issue because there was a residence there. And
That's right, there was an old house there. Yeah,
anyway,
there was one example, one example where there was some question about whether or not the planning board showed favoritism to the chairman of the planning board.
So we wrapping up discussion with the letter from Mr. Finley,
Yeah.
and we're gonna move on to all business.
So I'll draft something and
Yes,
send it to Hans to put on the agenda for the next meeting.
That'd be great.
and I will email you some facts out of the file tomorrow morning.
Okay, great, thank you, that'll be helpful.
Draft letter.
Always helps if you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, the date of the approvals and.
Can you attach all of us on that?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
And we skipped number 3 here. Future planning board attendance. Vacation time.
Um.
Are we gonna
So,
be able to meet forums in the future for the planned vacations?
Yeah,
so we have to bring like a calendar, somebody.
well, I mean, so this kind of came up because of,
Here's out.
yeah, with Peter Sargent being out for 2 months. Unexpectedly, and it just seemed like, I mean, at the time when it came up, I didn't know at least that Nick would be appointed, so, you know, that goes a long way to helping, because I was a little concerned that maybe we might not have a quorum, and I knew that I was gonna be, Becky and I are going out to Seattle for a while to visit our sons, and so I'm gonna miss at least one meeting, probably 2 in May. Then May and the first meeting in June, and so I was just trying to think ahead of, you know, if other people had similar kinds of plans, you know, whether we'd be in trouble. But maybe with Nick here now, we're okay.
it may be okay, but George's concern or whatever, when I read it, I'm thinking, yeah, this is probably, we don't have Peter. And I looked at my schedule tonight and I'm not gonna make the next April meeting, probably not any of the May meetings unless it rains. So,
Yeah, so I'll definitely miss the meeting on the 18th, and I may miss the meeting on the June 1st.
That's me.
Yes, May 18th and June 1st.
So, if that's the case. And Craig, Nick and I were here, we still can run the meeting.
I just, you know, I didn't know Craig was gonna be off striper fishing or something, you know, whatever.
No.
So the question will be, you'll be available, Nick? or-
I'll be, I'm looking right now, the only planned trip I have is, in June, end of June, like the 28th to 4th of July, I'll be up north at the Forks, but there's no meeting planned for that, so
Yeah,
I should be at every meeting.
Great. And Greg, from Country,
Yeah, I'll have to be right until beginning of June at least for.
Yeah.
And I would say if there was an emergency where you only had two. My things are things I want to be at, but I don't. Stop, live or die type things and, if you were down to two people and wouldn't have a quorum, I would be here.
the only thing for me that is not being planned yet, but might happen, is a trip to Puerto Rico in late May. But it will be late May, so it will be after the meetings happen, basically.
yeah. I was mostly concerned, May and June.
Yeah, because the last meeting in May is on the 18th. So that will clear me out.
I'm sort of the same boat with Nick, because I'll be here after that until late June again, but we don't have a meeting then.
So we should be good.
Okay.
All right, so we covered that one too. So going back now to all business, planning board charter. And this is draft we have here, this one here.
Yeah. So Nick, I can't remember if you were there at that meeting while I was speaking to the select board, but no, I was pretty late, so I think you had already left, so you probably don't know what this is about. Just to help you catch up a little bit is, the planning board originally was, approved by town, established and approved by town meeting back in 1970, and the laws have changed since then. And a number, and so we determined it was necessary for us to, if you will, reestablish the planning board under current state law. And that's what this draft ordinance is intended to do. And we had approved an initial draft. The town manager sent it to the town attorney for his review. He's made a number of what I consider pretty minor edits. Basically just cleaned it up a little bit. And at the select board meeting on Tuesday night, they didn't vote on this, but they basically clearly they're in favor of this, but they wanted us to vote to approve the changes made by the town attorney first. And then it'll go back to the select board at their next meeting and continue on from there. Apparently the timeline is still such that, according to the town manager, that this could go to the, go through the public hearing process, all that, and go to the voters at the referendum vote that's scheduled in June. So, like I said, the town attorneys looked at this and is basically okay with it, with these few exceptions that are noted here of things that just wording that he suggested, change the title and that kind of thing, and took out some, a footnote that would have been taken out anyway, but so, if people have problems with it, then, we may need to do some more work on it, but otherwise we should,
I make a motion that we accept the town of Belgrade planning board ordinance as amended on the draft 3/22/23.
I'll second it.
Wait, any discussion?
We're gonna get a lot of people at the public hearing.
yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Sarah.
So I will say, I wanna really thank George for putting this together and to work on it so hard. On the entire thing, one of the things I really value is the concept that a chairperson will be elected every year. It's something that, there are policies that give chair people too much power at times. And I struggle with that in different, boards that I participated in, but keeping the same person for a long time is something that should not happen. We should be rotating somehow, bringing new people in. Nothing said to the work of Peter. He did an amazing job through all the time I was here. But that's kind of old school. Bringing this in is becoming more and more important in our governance as people. And we have rotating chairs. This statement is great. It's perfect, and at least that might take into it. And I appreciate all the great work that Mr. Seal have put into it. Thank you.
Is there a vice president of this board already? Or?
Not currently, but I think, if this is approved by the voters, I think we should establish one.
Yeah, it's what it says it has to. Vice president and then a secretary.
We do have a secretary.
Yeah.
Just so you know, she does our minutes by listening to the recording. That's why she's not here, which is allows her to do two things at the same time.
Yeah.
Current system works well. She does.
Yeah, no, she does a
She
good
does a
job.
great job.
So there's a motion and it's been seconded.
Yeah. we
Yeah,
just-
so time to vote. So, Mr. Baker, we're gonna be voting on the motion of, as it was given. Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Shield,
Yes,
Craig,
Yes.
and I also vote yes, so the ordinance as it is approved to be sent to the voters.
so the way it was left with, by the select board and Lorna with me was if that was indeed what the board decided, this board decided to do, was I was just gonna clean it up, make these, and then send the clean copy to Lorna, and then she was gonna take it from there.
Excellent. So next item in our old business will be approval of the minutes from March 16th. So we're gonna have some time to read over and then we can make changes as we need to, and then we'll vote on it. So I was not at this meeting. I will not vote on the
I guess it's Rich, Craig and I.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sarah, for sending that, bill, not the bill itself, but the,
If we're hearing for it, yeah,
Yeah, that was good. I don't have any comments on the minutes,
you don't either.
so
wow, that's something.
I think they look short.
That's perfect.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 16th as written.
Need a second?
Second,
All right, so we move on to vote on that. Mr. Baker,
yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Mr. Steele,
Actually, Nick can't vote because. he
Oh,
was
that's
at that
right.
meeting. Yes,
Mr. Craig.
Yes.
All right, 3 yeses. and 2 abstain. All right. So we move on to the next item in the agenda, which is the CEO update.
Okay, so you have some paperwork, a sample letter, it's old from 2014. All of the gravel pits with the exception of one are expired. Permits have expired. So that mock letter, I'll have that cleaned up. With the addition of they're supposed to be permitted annually by the DEP, so I'm gonna request that they just send us a copy of their DEP permit for now until we can get our actually applications in their hands and have them start the process. And how do you all want to do this? You don't want them on here at one time.
Well, if I remember right, there's pushback against it, so I don't know how far all this will go. I don't think it's just gonna go easy.
Well, and last time, some of the pit owners, including Ricky's, never got approved at all.
I'm talking about Ricky Gladden.
No,
Yeah.
yeah,
Some of them say, oh, I'm exempt, I'm grandfathered, everyone I've spoken to, let them know it's coming down the line.
yeah.
They're also, oh, I'm exempt or.
I mean, some of that I wasn't privy to simply because it was just between them and Gary Fuller, but fair number of them did get their 5-year approval. I mean, it's pretty clear in the ordinance, but the and you know, the argument about the grandfathering doesn't really apply here because this is an operating permit.
It's very clear in the ordinance, you gotta get 5 years.
Yeah, but what, as a practical matter, I mean, we're gonna be really busy this summer. And I believe the way we did it last time was we had them, the due date for their applications spread over the winter. That way they could prepare it, you know, in good weather and we could review it, you know, when we weren't so busy, because you know, logistically, you know, something like that would be I'd be amenable to that. I mean, I think Craig's right, you will get pushback, but
Can you guys
you know, we'll just have to deal with it.
elaborate on that? Why push that?
Well,
I don't know the exact details why, but I know that. Yeah, probably because they feel that their grandfather,
right,
there's almost picture here before this ordinance ever was existed. So why would they have to conform to it?
I see.
the
So that's gonna be an issue, and just point it out, and I'm not so sure if I disagree with them.
what's interesting in terms of the history of this ordinance probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the gravel pits. Is my recollection of back in 2001,
Also, it's
because
like
there was a major outcrying about the gravel pits, particularly the ones in North Belgrade.
just to eliminate the competition source.
Just traffic and, you know,
Craig, is the pushback because they just don't want to go through the process of,
I have no idea.
yeah, or as they do it.
I don't think they feel they have to.
Right,
because
right.
Why would you wanna go through it if you don't
Right.
have to?
right,
So I was saying, or are they afraid that maybe it wouldn't get approved, like there's issues that they
Well, I think it's more of a.
yeah,
And I don't know the details.
Right.
probably principle.
principle, yeah, okay. Inconvenience.
I mean, I don't remember all the ones that did get approval. Certainly Pike Industries, which is the one that's approved now, only one that's approved did. Gagney did, Hammond did, I think, Steve, Foster owns it now.
Across from the school, kind of.
Yeah, on the other side from the school, I mean, he created some other problems there that were in violation of the ordinance, but that's neither here nor there. The one with this Maplehurst, he
Oh,
did,
yeah.
those are the only ones I can remember. Ricky was working on it, but never followed through.
Doesn't Boss, that's a little bit too.
I don't think Kevin does he?
Oh, Kevin?
Yeah.
Doesn't he own the one down by, or is it whatever Hurst you just said?
Maplehurst.
Yeah, he had a contract or something at the time.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
he bought it since, but he bought stuff, stumpage or whatever you call that.
I'm not sure, he might have bought horses.
I don't remember Stevens coming in. Next to the town.
I don't remember either, but I'm pretty certain I'm not remembering them all either. But a fair enough, we did review a fair number of them.
Well, it would be good to stagger it out and have, not that they'd all come in the same day, but not have 2 or 3 of them on the agenda at once.
I'm just curious, Hans, where did you find this? Because this is not what we used in 2015.
I didn't find it, that did, she's been digging through this.
Okay, what we required them to complete was some of the very basic information, not the entire application, but some of the basic application, and then the one section that applies specifically to gravel mining at the back of the application. Just so you know.
I talked to Rick Levy about it, he said, there's a 5-year plan of where you're gonna excavate, and which makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
But as a practical matter, I wouldn't want to see us requiring them to come in this summer, for example. They're busy, we're busy. I mean, they've been in violation since 2020, so what's a couple more months?
okay,
I mean, that's my personal view. Maybe I'm being a little cavalier, but
I had something, you have something in your mind about that.
well, basically, you don't want me to proceed.
no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's spread it out so that we're not. I mean, we're going to be busy with, as we typically are in the summers, with a lot of shoreline zoning stuff, and potentially this one commercial
We
development.
want to find an application that's suitable, right? Not that one, who said there was a different.
Well, it's the basic commercial development review ordinance application, and there's one section for if you want to take a minute, so if you want me to come in sometime, I can show you what or look at one of the ones that were approved in 2015, you'll see what I mean.
Okay,
That'd probably be the easiest way.
all right. We're working on a GIS system for the town.
Which is,
Basically the global information system where the tax cards. Someone, when we subscribe to the service, they can click on a lot, see the tax card, all that good information. We talked about it, I guess. Doing it with iWork, but it's very limited, not available to the public, so we're always looking into a system that the public will have access to. So that's just coming down the road. Commercial expansions. Again, like the Bellevance saying, what says their commercial business? Is there any limit to the hard surface that they can create?
Without coming back to the board, there is.
Is it a percentage or case by case? If I was looking through the commercial ordinance, I couldn't find anything that
I thought there was, but maybe
gave a
the one.
limitation. You know, in the Shoreland, you got a 20% for hard surface, 40%.
Oh, you mean maximum, or do you mean before they have to come back to the planning board?
Maximum, I mean,
Oh, in terms of a maximum, you know, like lot coverage similar to the, no, there isn't. But it's all determined by their stormwater management plan, because the more, obviously, the more impervious surface you create, the more, more robust stormwater management plan you have to have, and so they may have to amend their.
stormwater management kicks in at 7,500 square feet, right?
Yeah. But, if you, let me see, give me a minute and maybe I'll find, I think it's under the amendment section rather than.
We didn't quite hear the question. What was it?
On commercial development, is there any point where hard surface coverage would be limited to? You're gonna have to come back for more approval, or can they just start adding picnic areas or more parking spaces?
So,
Stormwater runoff, that includes driveways or just
Yeah.
the structure?
and it doesn't have to be paved, compact gravel is considered impervious.
Okay.
So, the things that would require them to come back to the board is an increase in the number of footprint area of buildings on site. This is for something that's already approved. An increase in the area of impervious surface on the site. Doesn't say how much. An increase in storage capacity or use of toxic, flammable, combustible, or hazardous substances. Change to stormwater management or phosphorus control designs. Changes to proposed screening or vegetative buffers. The addition of activities or change in design which could increase noise levels.
So what page, where are you looking
I'm
at?
on page 18 and 19. A change of use of the property to use which will generate a higher traffic demand. A change in location design of any infrastructure that will be used by the general public, roads, streetlights, that kind of thing. And any physical expansion, reconfiguration, or increase in the rated nameplate capacity of an existing non-residential solar energy producing facilities, which obviously we just added.
How did you get one with page numbers?
This is the newest version of, this is the November 8th, 2022. You got the old.
Well, I said November 8, 2022.
Oh, well, okay.
So what section is it under?
I think it's administration and enforcement. And it's in section 9, revisions to an approved plan.
Okay. Thank you.
There is somewhere in here, there is a exemption though, and it would take me a little bit to. So if we approved a parking lot, it was originally gravel or say. And they wanted to pave it, they wouldn't have to come to us because it was already considered impervious and
No,
the fact,
they're digging into the earth, excavating and putting in new hard surface.
yeah, yeah, that's different. But, you know, say we approved I don't know, a retail store, a mini mall or whatever it might be, and it had a parking area and then originally was going to gravel and then they decided later they wanted to pave it, they can, and they don't have to come back to us for that.
Okay, good, thank you. Last thing I've got is, can you define premise? Because this falls under our sign ordinance. Says we're allowed one sign on the premise or the structure, or whatever. If we have a situation like the gentleman today, that's gonna have two entities in one building, are they allowed one sign with half and half? Or do they put two signs as premise, the actual structure, or is premise the use inside the portion of the building?
Well, I thought we had it as well as, 32 square feet.
Right.
Well, that's the size of the sign.
So,
But if somebody, that's maximum signage, but if somebody said, you know, wanted a 4x4 sign. And another 4x4 sign, or even little 2-foot signs, and then 3 or 4 businesses inside of one building. Is that allowed?
if it's existing,
So you're concerned about this requirement in the ordinance, now on page 35, no more than 2 signs which in combination are not more than 32 square feet in footprint. Area and size shall be permitted per premise. Is that the
Exactly.
applicable?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking.
What, did you have to look up premise in the dictionary?
Nope, I don't know how it's defined here, because it's not in definition.
No, it's not.
And the way you wrote this, or this ordinance was written, I wonder how we're interpreting it here.
I know typically if we don't define it, it's usually based on, standard definition in a dictionary.
I mean, I think this was to get at like the mini mall scenario kind of thing.
And
Where you have.
3 stores or 4 stores there.
Yeah, and this was standard language that came from KP-Cog that came from models, site review ordinance, site development review ordinances, if I recall correctly. Wasn't anything we came up with, but we certainly adopted it. So I think the concept is like you see in a lot of mini malls, there'll be, say, 4 businesses. And they each have a small sign that in total add up to the total allowed square footage. But in terms of premise, I think the premise is the not necessarily the lot, but the development.
Structure.
The structure of the building.
Yeah. Yeah. So like in his example, he could have 2 signs. It's just, but the total, square footage of the 2 would have to be 232 feet.
Yeah. But in a situation where a building had 3 or 4. What's allowed? This,
Okay, I got definitions here for premise.
okay,
Definitions are a tract of land including its buildings. So it will be the whole lot basically. Then a building together with its grounds and other appurtenances.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce that, and I don't know what that is either. And then the other one is the property forming the subject of a conveyance or bequest. So it can be any place in the lot where this thing is, where the commercial is, or location is. Premise.
so our ordinance says 2 signs. If the building has 4 signs. Do they draw straws to see who takes their signs down?
Interesting,
Because the
Even
premise
one
is-
approved under this ordinance, you mean?
interesting.
Well, there's two things. Maybe back in the day, this wouldn't ask, this question in the application didn't ask, but that's why we have a question of how many signs and where are they going to be located in the application. So we can try to avoid that, but if somebody just goes off willy-nilly and decides they're gonna put up as many signs as they want on a project that this board approved under this ordinance, and it was the version that contains this language, then they're allowed 2 signs. And they need to choose which 2. It would seem to me.
Okay.
But I mean, like, for example, I don't know how many signs Hammond Lumber has, but they're grandfathered. I mean, they wouldn't be allowed to have that many signs if it was all a brand new development, but
How do we know?
how do we know
Change our
what?
signs, we take some down and put some up. How do we know how many they had in the beginning?
I'm just making the point that, existing longstanding businesses can have as many signs as they want. Cause they didn't fall under these regulations, they predated by decades and decades and decades. This is just this only applies to those that relatively small number of businesses that we've approved under this ordinance.
All right, so when did we approve this, 2015?
Well, yeah, so originally it was 2001, and then there was amendments made in 2017, and then the latest, of course, was 2022. But that was just the solar. So it may be, so if this business was approved a long time ago, in the early years of this ordinance, you probably need to go back to that original ordinance to make sure that the sign requirement is similar to what we're looking at today, which is the newest version of the ordinance, because I believe whatever was, I'm positive that whatever rules applied when they applied for their permit is what, they need to abide by.
Yeah. But times have changed, people are adding rooms for rent. Calling
That's
themselves
going everywhere.
cottages, cottage rooms available, that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm looking at.
I see.
Because it's an added use for the shop space upstairs. Someone's got a lake view, place to stay.
I don't think we handle rentals, I mean, we don't have any ordinances on rentals.
But it's a commercial building.
Well, the only kind of thing along those lines that I believe that's ever been approved by this board under this ordinance was bed and breakfast. But I'm not familiar with anything else.
I'll look deeper, but thanks for the.
You say which bed and breakfast was that, James? I said, which bed and breakfast?
And again, I only know this because of that study, or not study, with the stuff I did on the comprehensive plan by the lakes over in North Belgrade.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway, that's approved under this ordinance.
Now,
I wasn't on the board, but
explain that. All right, you weren't on the board then? Because, funny you mentioned them. I don't have any septic plans for them. And I know that cabin they built in the back, it looks like there's a clear field behind it, but there's no paperwork. When was that cabin built?
That log cabin, it was just recently built, and I think you'll find that that's piece of property was sold off. Because I think they access it from the dirt road.
I don't think so.
I would check to make sure, check to make sure that property wasn't sold where the log cabin is. That might be a totally different property broken off. I'm not 100%, but that's what I would check.
in terms of not being able to find files even before. Some things got lost in the move from the old office to here. And when I went in and rummaged around in the basement of the old town office, trying to find these files. Even with Mary's help, I couldn't find some. Who knows where they went. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the town of Belgrade.
I do a lot. The finance center.
All right, so I want to recycle back a little bit to the gravel pits. So will be okay to ask then maybe that you put a tentative like calendar plan to go with that after we define exactly what we're gonna send to the owners.
Well, I was gonna send a letter requesting a copy of their DEP permits. And some of them are even saying that that's not required anymore. But I'll find out. When I do that, I'll find the proper application, send them one of them, and then also request that they come to us with the first available date that they prefer and start building it as to who's coming back.
So should we say that the start dates for us will be like September for us to have them?
I would start like mid-October.
It's deer season.
So can we say then,
I would say September.
end
Just,
of September, maybe? Mid-September, so we cleared out the
yeah,
summer.
yeah, you're right.
After, let's say after Labor Day? That final.
Just put it out there because, we'll see who comes back.
Yeah.
What the feedback
Well,
is.
yeah, deal with the low-hanging fruit first and then go after the hard nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They go through a lot of work and they pay $20 for 5 years. Like they do more work for 5 years.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So with all that, that'll be our work tonight. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I, just,
Oh,
Make a
no,
comment.
no,
or actually, this is just for,
sorry.
Nick's, benefit. So, I don't know if Mary mentioned this, Mary Vogel mentioned this when you got sworn in, but when you join the planning board, you have to go through MMA's training seminar for
Yeah, I
planning.
think it's June 6th in Lewiston.
Oh, okay, so she gave you that after, because I had printed it out for you in
Yeah.
case you wanted it.
Yeah, I think it's either June 6th or June 4th.
June 7th is in Lewiston,
Lewiston, yeah.
unless you really want to go to the county in August.
Yeah.
You want this or?
Yeah, I'll take that. Thank you.
Right,
At least you gave it. I'll take it.
Yeah, and I think Mary, at least when I took that course, Mary arranged it, and of course, the town pays for it.
Right. Yeah, I already signed up for it.
Okay.
So June 7th, I'll put that on my phone.
Did she tell you that meetings that go beyond 2 hours, you get time?
I think it still adds up to 0, right?
All right.
I'll
So,
make a motion to adjourn.
well, wait a second. So I asked for a second then. For a second. Second it, so let's vote on that, it's roll call, Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Craig.
Yeah.
And I will yes too, and that's 5 votes, we're done for tonight, people. Night.